My beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Madrid on a baking day. It's so hot here. It's crazy. It's dry heat, but nonetheless, it's baking. Do not come to Madrid now. I'm advising you guys to stay away. Okay, this is going to be a short video. I just want to give you guys my thoughts. Look, Kylian had a fever and wasn't able to practice yesterday. So, you know, obviously he's getting antibiotics and fluids and all that kind of crap. I don't know if he's going to make it back, but I want to give you guys my thoughts on the two possible lineups that we can see in formation tonight if Kylian doesn't make it. And then I'll give you guys a couple of lineups and formations if Kylian does make it by some miraculous reason. So I want to share those thoughts with you. I'll also share a kind of funny anecdote about the heat in Miami in summer. And then I'll give you guys a couple of thoughts on Mastantuono's performance last night with River. But anyway, thanks for joining me here in hell. But thanks for joining me as always. Let's get started. Welcome back. Okay, let me give you my thoughts on possible formations and lineups with or without Kylian tonight. Just one funny anecdote about, you know, the heat in Miami, because I lived in Miami for 5 years, and you know, I would go for runs on weekends. I was working at the time, so I could only go for runs on weekends. I lived at the very, very bottom tip of South Beach, right? Like right in front of South Point Park. In a building called the Murano at Portofino. I was like right there. All I had to do was go around the park, and I was on the beach. And I would go sort of every weekend. I would do like a 90-minute run, you know, up and down the beach, and running on sort of the harder part of the sand. Now in summertime, just for fun, I would weigh myself before I left. This is many years ago, okay, not the old man you see today. But I would weigh myself before I left, and then I would weigh myself after. Now that 90-minute run in summer, I would consistently lose 6 pounds. And that is, you know, a normal person running at a normal rate. I was running on kind of like the slightly hard part of the sand. So you can just imagine what these guys, I mean, these players don't have 6 pounds to lose. And they're going to be running a hell of a lot more than I was. So I don't know. I'm just really concerned about the weather because, like I say, in summer, it's just so hot and humid. It's going to be interesting to see how they survive. But okay, let me give you my thoughts on formations. Now, the first two formations, let's assume that Kylian can't make it back, okay? I'm sure they're trying everything in their power to revive him. But if Kylian doesn't make it back, I think there are two formations we'd be looking at. The first one would be a 4-4-2 diamond. Now this is a conventional type of formation. We've seen it before. It's the 4-4-2 that I most prefer because it puts Jude in that number 10 position, and it creates a kind of false 9, which Jude has been very, very good at playing, especially that first year. He just scored so many goals drifting into the box as a false 9. This is what the formation would look like. You'd have Courtois. There's no, I don't think, controversy there. The 4 defenders, I don't think there's any controversy there. And then you would have a midfield with, now in this case, I'm putting Arda on the right. It could also be Brahim. This is kind of up to Xavi. I'm betting for Arda, but he could surprise me and use Brahim. And then, of course, you would have Jude in the number 10 position. And then the 2 wingers up front, Vini and Rodrigo. This is one possibility without Kylian. Now, another possibility without Kylian would be a 4-4-2, but with a double pivot. Now, in this formation, you're pushing Jude off to the left. It's a slightly more defensive formation because you do have a double pivot, and Jude is off to the left. Again, on the right, I'm assuming out of that, but, you know, I don't know. He could surprise me and use Brahim, or who knows. But this is a much more defensive formation. It's a more solid block. I think you're likely to concede less goals with this type of formation, but it does leave the attack a little bit empty because you have the 2 wingers, and it's a lot harder for Jude to get into the middle channel if he's stuck on the left. And we've seen that repeatedly last year. So this is a more defensive 4-4-2 with a double pivot, which is possible. Now, One thing I need to, you guys might be surprised I'm saying all this because Xavi has this funky, 3-4-2-1 system. You need to remember one thing. The goal of this tournament is to win. Okay, now Xabi Alonso knows that he has plenty of time to in the preseason to teach all these new methods and the new styles of play, etc. I don't know to what extent he wants to be experimental now. Okay, he barely has had a week with these boys. There's no way in hell they would have learned a system in a week. I don't know how experimental he's going to get. So don't be surprised to not see the kind of Xavi stuff from Leverkusen, but to see a more conventional formation with the view of winning the match. The goal is to win, okay? We will have plenty of time to kind of change up, use new systems, etc. I think Xavi's focus is going to be to win, and he'll come out with a formation and a lineup that can get him a victory because that is all that matters at this point. Okay, so that would be the sort of 4-4-2 double pivot, slightly more defensive with Jude off to the left. Now, if Kylian manages to make it, right? Let's say they revive him and, jack him up with dexamethasone and fluids and who knows what. If Kylian came back, this would be another possible formation. This would be a 4-3-3, a pretty conventional 4-3-3. Now, in this formation, you drop the Brahim or you drop the Arda, and you're left with a midfield of Tchouaméni, Jude, and Valverde. Jude in the middle, a bit further up front. And then, of course, up front, you have the three monsters. Now, this is a very aggressive formation. It's a very offensive formation. It's kind of classic, not particularly confusing, I think, for any of the players. So this is a possibility that we could see if Kylian comes back from his sort of fever spell. Now, the fourth possibility, which is the one that we would all be very curious about, would be if Xavi tried, I think he could only do this if Kylian comes back. He could try to do his funky little 3-4-2-1. And this is what that would look like. Now, if you notice in this formation, and this is the Bayer Leverkusen, he did this 27 times with Bayer Leverkusen in that magical year. 27 times. This was the formation he wanted. Now, what you notice in this formation is your fullbacks are playing in a much higher position. You have three center backs, but your fullbacks are pushed up a little higher. This means that Fede and Jude also play a little bit higher. And then, of course, you have the two wingers and Mbappe all the way up. But this is by far the most aggressive strategy that he could put together because you have so many more men much further up the pitch. This is very conducive to the high press that I've told you guys about in previous videos. Xabi Alonso's style is based on a high press, stealing the ball in the final third. This is the formation that achieves that. Okay, look at the amount of bodies you have really high up. Now, I know that he would love to do this. I don't know if he will. It'll depend on, Kylian's return or whether he feels he wants to take the risk. Because by now, there's no way that the system is automatic yet. But it is by far the most aggressive system he could put together. It's very conducive to a high press. It's very vertical encounters. And it just loves to pile men up front as high as possible. So that is something that we could see. Again, I don't know how confident he is after just a few days that the players could implement this, but that would be, I think, the most aggressive formation. But I think that he would only try if Kylian were back. I mean, he could try it with Gonzalo, but I'm not sure he would go there. So anyway, those are my views on in terms of the various strategies that he could try. Again, the goal is to win and not be too experimental. Okay. So I just a couple of words now on Mastantuono because I watched him play last night, and I have to say I think he played a good game. I mean, he didn't set the world on fire, but we were able to see the characteristics that I discussed in previous videos. So he is very quick. He has this thing that he does where he sort of stops in front of a player and then it accelerates around him. He almost like lulls a player into complacency and then uses a burst of speed to get around him. He does that very, very effectively. Some of his passing was really, really good. He has a lot of vision. He has a lot of awareness of where everybody is. He always seems to play the ball to the right place. There were a few runs and a few attempts that just kind of didn't work out. And I don't really blame him for it. Some of the finishing, some of the play in the final third was a bit sloppy. But we did get to see some of the characteristics that I mentioned in previous videos. He is very quick, very good on the ball, very physical, very hard to get the ball off him, doesn't go to ground. He's just a strong, intelligent, quick player with very good technique, a great shot from distance, and just a very intelligent guy. And by the way, he played on the right, drifting to the middle. So you can extrapolate whatever you want from that, but yesterday, Mastantuono played on the right, and he would drift from there to the middle, but then he would return to the right. So we'll have to see whether that will be the case with Xabi Alonso or not, but that is certainly what he was doing yesterday. But I thought he had a solid game, and highlighted some of his qualities. The plays, like I say, didn't quite work out, but that they don't always do. But I was able to see the raw material again, and the raw material I'm very, very happy with. So very excited about that. But anyway, listen, those are my thoughts ahead of what we might see tonight. I'll definitely give you guys my thoughts in the post-match analysis, but just wanted to share these thoughts with you. Okay, thanks for joining me. As always, love you guys. Hope we get the victory tonight. And as always and forever, a la Madrid.